You can talk again.
I know, you might have to live with me this way for now. I'll fix it later.
We're live now. Well, good morning, and I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Monday, March 13th Committee of Adjustment. And before I start, I'll just read this little notice. Today's meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Township of Muskoka Lakes website and YouTube channel. By participating in the open public meeting today, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and posted online. Thank you very much. First resolution is moved by Member Bridgman, second by Member Quinn. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment agenda dated March 13th, 2023 be adopted. All those in favor? That's carried. And are there any conflict of interest? None? Okay. I have to change this one here. Moved by Member moved by Member Stokes, second by Member Bridgman. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment minutes dated February 13th, 2023 be adopted and approved as circulated. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, would you like to hear your speech now? Just a second.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is required that I make a few opening statements and then I will explain the hearing procedures. This electronic hearing is being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The members of the Committee of Adjustment present are Alan Edwards, Barb Bridgman, Lisa Grogan-Green, Joe Quinn, and Sean Stokes. I confirm we have a quorum. I can also confirm that senior staff and planning staff are present. Public input on this March 13th, 2023 agenda was invited at the following email address, planning@muskokalakes.ca. Now I will explain the hearing process. The planner will provide an explanation and purpose of the application, the date the notice was circulated, and planning staff's comments. All internal and external submissions were sent to committee members on Friday, March the 10th, 2023. The planner will present any additional submissions received after that date. The committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent if they wish to add any information or to substantiate their proposal. Please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. The committee will hear from those in support of the application and those in opposition to the application. Again, please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise permitted by the committee. If you're here to speak on an application, please wait to raise your hand in Zoom until the planner presents the relevant application. The committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent to respond to any questions or concerns raised. The committee will then have the opportunity to ask questions. The committee will debate the application and make a decision based on the information presented at the hearing. Please note that the effect of written and oral submissions on decisions for consent and minor variances and the reasons for minor variance decisions are both required under the Planning Act, and the motions are pre-populated with standard wording. However, the committee may decide to add reasons and/or effects to the standard wording after voting on a decision. Motions have also been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting. The motions are automatically written in the positive to assist in completing decisions as opposed to writing out each resolution. This does not in any way mean an application is going to be approved. When it is time to vote, members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded. This is not considered a recorded vote. It must be noted the chair has a vote on each application and can participate in the discussion. There's a 20-day appeal period from the date of the decision. Building permits are not available until after the appeal period and if no appeals are received. And lastly, please take down the pink notice signs that were posted on your property to advertise today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that. The first application is B 0223 ML Maclaren. Ms. Crowder?
Thank you, Chair Edwards, and good morning, members of committee. The first application to be heard is consent application B0223ML in the name of Maclaren. The subject lands do not have a municipally assigned address. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on pages 43 and 44 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is as follows: to sever a portion of the subject lands and to add the retained lot to an abutting lot to the south. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 15 days in advance of this meeting, and 5 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, Curtis Sivret, District Municipality of Muskoka planner, Terry Guthrie from Trillium Lakelands District School Board, and Paul Schlaku from Hydro One, all stating no objection to the application. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to standard conditions of consent. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is the owner or agent here? Okay. Thanks. Bring them in, please.
Good morning, Chair Edwards. My name is Ryan Allen, 104 Kimberley Avenue, P1L 1Z8, Bracebridge, Ontario. I'm here today representing the landowners, Bruce and Tia Maclaren. The subject lands are at 1097 Armstrong Point Road. Thank you, staff, for providing a detailed planning report as well as a positive recommendation. This application is a little bit of a back to the future. There was a previous severance application approved on these lands in 1975. Specifically, lot number 2, the center lot, would be added to lot number 3, the northern lot, or so, excuse me, the southern lot, which includes the dwelling, sleeping cabin, and existing boathouse. For some reason, the condition that required the merger of lot number 2 with lot number 3 wasn't completed. However, the lands were transferred. So fortunately, the Maclarens own all 3 of these lots, or 2 of these lots, depending on how the conditions of that previous severance played out. And this severance application will clean up all of that ambiguity and gray area related to this previous severance. The conditions weren't finalized, and the resultant areas and frontage comply fully with the requirements of the bylaw. Lot number 1 is currently vacant, and there are no development plans at this time. Happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Okay, are there questions from the members? Seeing none. Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Quinn. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B0223ML, Maclaren, providing the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, a satisfactory registrable description deed of the separate lot, together with any required right-of-ways or easements, be submitted to the township along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, the confirmation be received that the township is satisfied with the retained and separate lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, that any problems identified with the existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. And 3, that a legal undertaking be submitted to confirm that the retained lot will merge in title with the benefiting lot upon registration of the transfer/deeds, which may include canceling consent, if any. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you. And the next application is B03040523ML, and that will be Ms. Gilden.
Good morning, Chair Edwards and members of committee. The next applications to be heard are consent applications B/03, 04, and 05 of 23 ML in the name of Minett, Foegele, and Budhdeo. The subject lands are not assigned municipally for the Minett property and known municipally as 1805 Peninsula Road, unit number 150 for the Foegele property, and 1805 Peninsula Road, unit number 395 for the Budhdeo property. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 59 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the applications are as follows. Consent applications B030405 of 23 ML grants rights of way over parts of an existing private road known municipally as 1805 Peninsula Road, also known as Riverdale Road, in favor of the property in the ownership of Adam and Dina Osborne. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance of today's hearing, and 6 submissions have been received to date. Comments were received from the District of Muskoka, Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, Sandy Boss, the Township's Building Inspector, Hydro One, and Trillium Lakelands District School Board, indicating there were no objections to the application. Comments from Tim Sopkow of the Township's Public Works Department indicated that private roads are not required to be constructed or maintained in accordance with township standards. As Public Works does not review this type of access, emergency services may be limited and or unavailable via the proposed road access. No public comments have been received. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and recommend approval. If committee is considering approval, staff recommend the following conditions. 1, that a registerable description deeds of the severed lot rights of way be submitted to the township along with a registered copy of the reference plan. And 2, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the retained lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal and that any problems identified with any existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Gilden. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here? Okay.
Good morning, members of committee. My name is Variance of Muskoka. Here representing the Osbornes as their agent on this matter. I don't really have much to add. The application is fairly straightforward. It's a situation where the subject land, the benefiting lands, have a temporary easement over Riverdale Road or Riverside Road. This application just seeks to make that easement permanent. This is the same sort of easement that almost all those properties, the whole peninsula of land have, and it crosses across public lands and a combination of private and public lands. So this application just seeks to make the easement over the private lands permanent for the subject lands. So I don't really have anything more to add than that, but I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? No, okay. Are there questions from the members? No questions. Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Stokes. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 03040523 ML Budhdeo, Foegele, Minett, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. One, a residual description, deeds of the separate lots right away be submitted to the township along with a registered copy of the reference plan. And two, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the retained lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, that any problems identified with any existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and the next one is B 0623, and that is Ms. Gilligan again.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee. The next application to be heard is consent application B-0623 ML in the name of Dutra. The subject lands are known municipally as 1033 Rossclare Road, Unit 26. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 71 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to grant a right-of-way for access purposes. There is an existing legal right-of-way already in place over the subject property. However, the driveway granting access to the neighboring benefiting lot was built somewhat outside of the recognized right-of-way area. This proposal would legalize rights over the portion of the driveway built outside of the current recognized easement area. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 19 days in advance of this meeting, and no submissions from neighbors or members of the public have been received to date. Comments were received from the District Municipality of Muskoka, the Township of Muskoka Lakes Building Services Division, including the chief building official and an inspector specializing in septic systems, the Township Public Works Department, Hydro One, and Trillium Lakelands District School Board, all stating no objection. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the requested lot addition, right-of-way applications be approved, subject to the following conditions: that a registerable description deed of each severed lot right-of-way be submitted to the township along with a registered copy of the reference plan, and that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the retained lot is satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, and that any problems identified with any existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Gilligan. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here? Okay, bring them in, please.
Good morning, Chair Edwards and committee. I'm Kyle Mann from HLD Muskoka, located at 50 Howland Drive, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H2P9. I'm representing my clients, and I wanted to thank staff for their presentation today. I feel like they've captured everything, and I have nothing further to add, but I am happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in support? Anyone in opposition? Are there questions from the members? Seeing none. Moved by member Stokes, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B0623 ML Ditra, provided following conditions are fulfilled. One, a registerable description deed of a separate lot right away be submitted to the township along with a registered copy of the reference plan. And two, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the retained lot is satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, and that any problems identified with any existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And the next application is minor variance, and that is A 8822 Walton. And that is Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A8822 amended in the name of Walton. The subject lands are known municipally as 1059 Mackenzie Road, Unit 20. Staff would note that this application was previously heard by committee on January 16th, 2023, where committee decided to adjourn the application until a satisfactory sketch is prepared by an Ontario land surveyor. Since this time, a sketch has been prepared and the application recirculated as an additional 2 variances were identified from the sketch. The original application requested relief from dock length requirements. The amended application requests relief from dock length, lot coverage, and side yard setback requirements for a dock. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 94 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is as follows: to construct a dock addition and recognize as-built roofed buildings and structures. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 13 days in advance of this meeting, and 3 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, and Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, both stating no objection to the application. A letter of objection was received from Barbara and William Boyer, area property owners, stating concerns related to the accuracy of the submitted site plan and opposition to approval of the proposed variances. I can read these comments in full at the request of committee. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. And is the applicant's agent here?
Yeah.
Okay, bring them in, please.
Hi there. Good morning to the committee, and thank you very much for that summary. I'm Phil Walton, the owner and applicant of 1059 Mackenzie Road, P1P1R2, and everything that was mentioned is accurate, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that anyone have.
Okay, thank you. Have to ask, is there anyone else in support?
No.
Anyone in opposition?
Yes.
Okay, would you bring them in, please? Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can we have your name, address, and postal code, please?
Okay, first, I don't appreciate that Mr. Walton is coming in with his fatigues on. He's a dentist, not a doctor, so please don't be swayed by his appearance or his
We're just talking about the facts. Thank you.
I know, but they did this the last time, insinuated that he was a doctor and he was in surgery, wasn't available.
No, sorry.
Okay, I'll stop. Okay, we oppose you. Could you please read out to the committee what I wrote?
Sorry, can we have your name, address, and postal code, please?
Oh, sorry. Okay, it's Barbara Boyer, 2266 Muskoka Road, 169 Gravenhurst, P1P1R2.
Okay, now go ahead.
Okay, so could you please read out my concerns to the committee, what I wrote?
I need to do that.
They not been forwarded to her in advance.
She should have. Yeah.
Yes.
All the committees have it.
She can read them out, but you could forward them in advance. So.
Yes, we will forward them in advance, but would you like to read them? Go ahead.
Okay, hang on. I'm out of the country, so trying to find everything here. Okay. Okay, originally the first variance or application was for one variance. Now they're requesting 3 variances in this application. The information submitted did not include a new survey. Sorry, I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. It is not to scale, and based on the information brings doubt as to how accurate the information submitted really is. It appears the current buildings and structures were not properly applied for and therefore overbuilt on the land as per these variances. See our previous objections, adding a bathroom and extending an existing bathroom, and our concerns, which is summarized in our objection to this application, was justified. That was our concerns before, because now they have to apply because the lot is overbuilt on. It appears that the current buildings and structures were not properly applied for, and therefore are overbuilt on the land as per the variances. The variance should not be approved. On your recommendation, the township should address the non-complying lot. The lot is now in non-compliance. Either structures need to be removed and or fines levied. The Waltons need to get a proper survey done to see where the garage, bunkie, house, deck, dock is currently on the lot for compliance. Approving something without accurate information would only frustrate this issue. Our question is, how many more violations are happening that are unknown? I draw your attention to Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw Amendment ZBA 36-2021-116 to amend 2014-14, particularly prohibit shoreline structure additions where width requirements are exceeded. Their claim that the current floating dock we challenge. We have included pictures that show that dock was not there in 2018. And I submitted the pictures to show you that. And that is why we are challenging these, what do you call it?
The variances, yes, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said you were challenging the variances. Thank you very much.
Yes, so
Is
those
there-
are our concerns.
Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in opposition to this application? No? Okay, are there questions from the members? Yes, Member Quinn.
I don't know how there can be any discrepancies if a surveyor's come out to do it. And to me, the floating dock looks like a raft. It doesn't look like it's attached or used as shoreline coverage in this application. Would that be the staff's take on this?
Through you, Chair Edwards,
Yes.
I can.
Yes, Ms. Crowder, go ahead.
Thank you, Member Quinn. So the floating dock is proposed to be attached to the stationary dock on the shoreline, so it would contribute toward lot coverage.
Okay, just 1 second. We have a question from Member Bridge. 1 second.
I'm gonna let Bryce answer first.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I just wanted to clarify that the docks don't count towards lot coverage. I believe Ms. Crowder may have mistakenly referenced lot coverage when she meant cumulative dock width. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I know Mrs. Boyer here referred to ZBA-36/21. I just think it would be helpful to clarify that it doesn't apply in this application and explain why that new zoning bylaw didn't change any rights for anybody. I actually, with 200 feet, am a non-complying lot at this point too. But maybe Mr. Sharp could help her understand that this has no connection to this application. You wouldn't mind, Mr. Sharp?
Through you, Chair Edwards, and thank you for your question, Member Bridgman. Bylaw 2021-116 was a bylaw that resulted from a number of considerations related to changes to undersized lots in particular. And I believe this is what Ms. Boyer may be getting at in her submission. I believe that she may think that the lot is undersized, but I would just clarify that in this case, because of the zoning, the minimum lot frontage and lot area requirements for the lot to be considered a building lot are 100 feet and 15,000 square feet of lot area. And in this case, the subject property has 103 feet of lot frontage and well in excess of 15,000 square feet of lot area. So the property is not undersized. So there's no concerns related to the lot not being a building lot. And also, I believe she may have referenced a section of the bylaw, of the zoning bylaw, that allows additions to be undertaken to docks that are legal non-complying due to their cumulative width. And again, I would just point out that in this case, the proposed dock that's in front of you today complies with the maximum permitted cumulative dock width. So again, there should be no concern or considerations related to dock width. What is in front of you today is a variance to allow an increase in length in a restricted water body zone, a variance to permit an addition to a dock within a required side yard. And the final aspect is with respect to lot coverage. The applicants have retained an Ontario land surveyor to assist them with this application, and they have since prepared a sketch in support of the application, indicating that the existing roofed buildings and structures on the property are slightly over coverage as compared to what they had previously been approved as through a previous minor variance in 2021. So again, the applicants are aware of this matter of the overage and lot coverage, and are simply just trying to recognize it through this application. And again, the slight increase in coverage was determined through through survey work that has recently been undertaken. So I hope that helps clarify some of the considerations. I'd be happy to elaborate if needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. I'm sorry, it's gone to committee now. Any other, yes, Member Stokes.
Yeah, I'd just like to better understand the final comment or by the neighbor, Ms. Boyer, about the floating dock and the photograph, and what the issue is there. Is the issue that there was no permit granted for that dock? And I don't understand the issue, so I just like some clarification on that.
Thank you very much. Yes, Ms. Browder.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Edwards. In this case, we took a look at aerial photos which show a dock on the property for a number of years in this case. And through the resources we have available to us, it appears that the dock is a legal non-complying structure, meaning that it has been there for a number of years, and it therefore has some inherited rights. The photo that Ms. Boyer may be referring to, I know that the floating dock is sometimes moved during the winter months. Perhaps maybe I'll allow the applicant to refer to why the floating portion may not have been in the photo, but we have seen through some aerial photos that this dock has been there for a number of years.
Okay, thank you. Would you like clarification on that, Mr. Stokes?
I think that's fine, and unless council or committee wants to let the applicant or the neighbor speak.
Okay, pardon?
I'm satisfied with that explanation.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? I will read the resolution. Moved by member Bridgman, second by member Quinn. Be it resolved that application A 8822 Walton to construct a dock addition and to recognize an as-built roof buildings and structures is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. To permit a dock length of 44 feet. 2, to permit a side yard setback of 12 feet for a dock addition. And 3, to permit a lot coverage of 2,192 square feet or 10.6% within 200 feet from the high water mark. These variances are granted, shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay. And the next one is A 10422, and that is Quinlan. And that is Ms. Gilden.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-10422 in the name of Quinlan. The subject lands are known municipally as 1082 Halls Road, unit number 5. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 120 of the agenda package. The purpose and the effect of the application can be summarized as follows. The applicants propose to construct a single-story boathouse addition on an existing dock. A variance is requested to permit the lot coverage within 200 feet from the high water mark to be 6,698 square feet or 11%, where 6,091 square feet or 10% is allowed. A variance is also requested to permit the cumulative single-story boathouse width to be 52 feet, where 45.6 feet is allowed. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 10 days in advance of today's hearing, and 2 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, and Tim Sopkow, the township's public works technician, indicating that there were no objections to the application. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have no objection. If committee is considering approval, staff recommend the following conditions. 1, that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for retention of vegetation and plantings to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer. And 2, that a wooded shed not indicated on the site plan be removed or relocated in compliance with applicable zoning provisions. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gillen. And is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this, the applicant or applicant's agent here?
The agent.
The agent, okay, bring them in, please.
Good morning, Chairman. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. My name is Peter Hungerford. I'm a senior planner with Marie Poirier Planning and Associates. Our address is 44 King William Street in Huntsville, P1H 1G3. And we're appearing this morning on behalf of our client, Sean Quinlan, who owns the property at 1082 Halls Road. As the committee has heard, the purpose of the application for a minor variance will enable our client to add to the rear of the existing boathouse to accommodate longer boat slips. The construction is located along the rear of the existing boathouse so as to appear to become part of the existing built form on the property, which the staff planning report has discussed. Together with our report and the staff report, I think the planning opinion is that this application conforms to the 4 tests that the committee has regard to in considering minor variances. We also note that the staff have included as a condition a satisfactory minor variance agreement, and that will address some of the issues raised in the staff report dealing with shoreline vegetation, and we support those recommendations. In respect of the woodshed, our client had relocated the woodshed to what he thought was the rear of the property, far enough back to conform, to the bylaw provisions. Unfortunately, he placed it too close, basically, and is prepared to move it. So that was an oversight, I guess, on his part, and we will correct that, and that is included as a condition in the application. So with those comments, and I'd be happy to answer questions from the committee, we are asking the committee to approve this application for minor variance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone wishing in opposition? Other questions from the members? Yes, Member Bridgman, just 1 second.
Okay. We're good. Okay. Thank you, Chair Edwards. I don't have any issues with the application, but I do have a question. Because on page 106, there's a hot tub within how many feet of the shoreline? So I just want to understand that that's being looked at by our bylaw officers. I know when we go on site, we usually see these things. So can I get somebody from staff to answer that question, please?
Through you, Chair, if it's okay. I was not the planner. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was not the planner on this file. I'm just presenting it to you. However, we can certainly bring that to the attention of our bylaw department. Sometimes these things are, in a sense, legal non-complying, but as I said, I didn't visit the property, so I can certainly ensure that it is brought to the attention of bylaw and looked into by them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just 1 second, I just want to look at that myself. I did notice it, yes. There is, because it is definitely too close to the lake path. And that, I think that should be maybe corrected. Just a minute, Mr. Sharp would like to say something, so.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I just wanted to clarify one point. Unfortunately, Ms. Mulholland, who's handling this matter and did the site visit, couldn't join us today. So Ms. Gillen is assisting us. So thank you, Ms. Gillen, for your assistance. And I would also just note that Ms. Mulholland and I reviewed the application and didn't raise the hot tub as an issue. Certainly happy to go back and take another look at that, but I believe in this case it's a situation where it's legal non-complying. But as I said, happy to revisit that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. I think we should have it looked at because it looks very new. And you know what our rules are, so if we could check into that. Are there any other questions or comments? No. Moved by Member Stokes, second by Member Bridgman. Be it resolved that application A10422 Quinlan to construct a single-story boathouse addition is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage 6,698 square feet or 11% within the 200 feet of the high water mark. And 2, to permit a cumulative single-story boathouse width of 52 feet. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following conditions. 1, to the satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for retention of vegetation and planting to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer, and 2, that the woodshed not indicated on the site plan be removed or relocated in compliance with the applicable zoning provisions. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And the next one is a 10722, and that is Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A10722 in the name of De Broy. The subject lands are known municipally as 1281 D Bank Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 165 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is as follows: to construct an accessory building containing a garage and secondary dwelling unit with a height of 25 feet where 20 feet is permitted. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 13 days in advance of this meeting, and 3 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, and Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, both stating no objection to the application. A letter was received from the previous landowner, whose name I was unable to make out from the letter, stating that the depression on the lands was created by their family, whom excavated the lands to create a hollow to water the livestock grazing the lands. Staff would note that through aerial photos and staff site visit, a watercourse feature has been identified on the property. This feature appears to flow to a nearby wetland and Bogart Lake. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to the following condition: that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title, along with securities if required, to ensure that mitigation measures to buffer the watercourse on the property from the proposed accessory building are implemented to the satisfaction of the township. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here with to speak on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello. Now, can you turn your video on as well?
Sure. There you go. Hi, my name is Leo De Broy. I'm the homeowner of 1281 D Bank Road in Windermere, POB 1MO. I would just like to touch on a couple of points. One regarding the watercourse and what looks like a pond on the page 6 of your report. It shows a 1969 air photo. I just wanted to ensure that you were aware all of the air photos from the GeoHub website, district website, are taken extremely shortly after the spring thaw, of course, the wettest time of the year. And that photo was actually taken shortly after the original owners, which are Jim Bogart family. I believe Aubrey Bogart was the original, who constructed the slight depression to hold water for their cattle. The letter also stated that that property dried up every summer shortly after the thaw was finished, and that they eventually abandoned that pond due to its drying up all the time. By the time I took possession, basically that watercourse has just become a very intermittent ditch, and basically is dried up by early June, middle June. I also wanted to discuss the actual building that I'm proposing. There's 2 reasons for the building. One is to allow a secondary suite for family member to live in. And with 2 family members living there, I wanted to construct a building large enough to house all of our implements and holdings, so that keep the property itself as clean as possible and have all of our possessions basically hidden from sight. As for the location of the building, It will be approximately 70 feet from what is now considered a ditch. And actually slightly downgrade from the ditch, stopping all possibility of any migration from anything through the construction process. I also don't mind installing a filter fence during the construction, just to ensure that there can't be any migration into the ditch at that time. The driveway itself is proposed would be approximately 20 feet from the ditch. And again, I'm proposing to install a small burn between the ditch and the driveway to mitigate any sediment from reaching back into the ditch. As for their recommendations, you are recommending securities if required. I would respectfully ask that if those securities are required, that they simply be attached to my tax bill, as taking more money out would make it quite difficult to complete that project. Being a typical Muskokan, we don't have a whole pile of money to do this, and want to ensure that I have enough available funds to complete the project. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wish to speak in support of this? Anyone in opposition? Okay, thank you. Mr. Sharp, on that request for putting the securities on the tax bill, what are your thoughts on that?
Through you, Chair Edwards. It would be an unorthodox approach that I wouldn't recommend. I think in this case, we've left some flexibility. We've not necessarily said that securities will be required, but if we feel that they are required, it gives us some flexibility to require them. For example, it may be that if we determine that sediment fence is required to be installed prior to construction and be maintained during the construction process until after the site has been stabilized, we may take a small security just to ensure that the applicant follows through with his obligations, but it sounds like he's more than willing to work with us. So I'm sure that we can come up with something that works for both parties. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So it looks like we may be looking for securities, but you can talk to the planning department and see what they are. I have a question. You said that there was going to be living accommodations in that building? Sorry, you're muted.
Yes. The living accommodations will be the far end of the actual building. Again, meeting the secondary suite bylaw. It will be 1,000 square feet, basically at the very end, furthest away.
Okay. I think that clears it up, because I had seen something on the report of 1,000 square feet. When I looked at the building, it's 5,000 square feet. So 4,000 are storage and 1,000 for.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from the members' comments?
I apologize. If I can add one more item. The building I'm proposing, if you were to look at it, is basically a long rectangular building that will look pretty well like all of the farm buildings that are in the area. The Bogart family farm across the street actually has one that'll be larger, but my building will be considered more farm-like than to keep in line with all of the property around there.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members? Moved by Member Stokes, second by Member Bridgman. Be it resolved that application A-10722 to construct an accessory building containing a garage and a secondary dwelling is hereby approved with the following variants being granted. One, to permit an accessory building height of 25 feet. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and is subject to the following condition. One, that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title along with securities if required to ensure that mitigation measures to buffer the water course on the property from the proposed accessory building are implemented to the satisfaction of the township. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. And the next one is 10822. That's Martin and Hodgson. And that is Ms. Gilgan.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-108/22 in the name of Martin and Hodgson. The subject lands are known municipally as 1087 Sandwood Road, Unit 1. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 186 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to permit a sleeping cabin and as-built shed on a lot with an undersized frontage. The lot has 92 feet of frontage where 100 feet is required to be recognized as a building lot. This application was previously reviewed by committee at the February 13th meeting, but details of the structures were not complete and the application was required to be recirculated with the additional details. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 12 days in advance of this meeting. Ron Richardson, who owns property 3 doors to the north, submitted comments outlining his objection to the proposal, which were provided to the committee prior to the February hearing date. No new submissions from neighbors or members of the public have been received following circulation of the amended application. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, and Tim Sopkow, the township's public works technician, stating no objections. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the requested minor variance application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if the applicant or applicant's agent wishing to speak on this, I see there's a few people in on it. Who would like to go first?
Yes, I would like to go first. My name is Richard Remke from R&F Construction. I'm here representing Larry Martin and Chris Hodgson. We were called in initially.
You need your name, address, and postal code.
Oh, sorry. Yes. We are located at 73 Patterson Road, Oro Medonte, L3V 0E9. The address that we are talking about is 1087 Sandwood Road, Unit 1.
We need your address. Excuse me, your address, so we have to mail anything out to you.
Yeah, I did say that. We are at 73 Patterson Road.
Okay, thank you.
Oro Medonte. Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can now.
Okay, perfect. The property in question is 1087 Sandwood Road, Unit 1, and it's in Port Carling. So we were called in to assess a bunkie and allow for putting an addition on. When we looked at the property, we noticed the existing bunkie did not have a permit from the previous owners. Larry and Chris spent quite a bit of money buying the cottage to allow both their families to come up and enjoy the Muskoka area. And because of this, we applied for title insurance, and when we found out there was no permit on the bunkie, we applied for a permit and realized that it required a variance. We've applied for a variance second time now. And I think there were some questions from the previous meeting we had where we had actually submitted everything, including the addition, but somehow they got missed in the first application. So the bunkie in question is over 30 feet beyond the existing cottage that is in front. The bunkie is 12'8" by 12'8", and they would like to apply not only for the variance, but to add an addition on, which is only 6'6" more on top of the 12'8". This would allow their family to come up. Their children are more adults now, so they could have their own separate area to enjoy their Muskoka property. We are hoping that this application will go through today so we can apply for permit and be able to finish this project sometime in the spring so they can enjoy their summer together. There was questions on vegetation on the property. The property has tree lines all the way down both sides of the property. They're probably around 35 to 50-year-old trees. The vegetation of those trees extend out past the property at least 15 to 30 feet down both sides. And then there's a row of trees beside the bunkie that extend out over the bunkie and towards the cottage.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And who else would like to speak on this in favor of it? Okay,
I'll speak. My name's Chris Hodgson. I'm one of the owners. I live at 105 Collegiate Drive, Aurelia, Ontario, L3V 3R9. I feel like Rick covered our situation fairly clearly. When we purchased the bunkie, the ad that went out, it showed this bunkie has been sitting there for 23 years. It was built in the year 2000. And like Rick pointed out, when we were looking to do a bit of work on it and we became aware that it was not legally conforming, this process started for us to try to make sure this building was legally on the permit or on the property. The addition of the bathroom, I think it's important to note, won't actually change any stress on the lake, as we're not changing the number of bedrooms on the property as it currently exists with the non-legal bunkie that we're trying to make legal. And the septic for this property is significantly oversized from the previous owner. So it easily fits within the ability of that installation. The last thing would be the vegetation. Like Rick was saying, we do have significant coverage already on our lot. And as the property falls down towards the water line, that's fairly shallow ground. I don't know that there's much that would survive in there other than the grass that currently exists. And this addition, this 6-foot addition off the back of the bunkie, won't be visible from the lake. And it actually doesn't even cover much more grass, because the area between that and the shed was primarily covered by pine needles anyways. And there was nothing growing in that space between the two. But if anybody has any other questions they'd like to have for me, I'm quite happy to answer them.
okay, thank you very much. And who else would like to speak in support of this application? And is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Sorry, okay, yes, okay, Mr. Parker, so sorry, I didn't see that.
Yeah, no worries. Hi there. My name's Andrew Parker. I'm the owner at 1087 Unit 2 in Utterson, Ontario, P0B1M0. Obviously the neighbor subject lands. I just wanted to speak in favor of this variance, further to the recommendation to do so. That's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else in support? Anyone in opposition? No one in opposition? Okay, are there questions from the members? Yes, just one second. Member Bridgman.
I'm muted. I just wanted to respond to the letter of complaint that came in, just because I think that's important. And what's being asked for, in terms of the building is within our bylaws. So, I think that covers that. And I just feel it's important sometimes to respond to what's been raised in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Member Quinn.
Also in that letter, he refers to, as we know, 3 Mile is a very sensitive lake and subject to algae and maybe some of the, not the best ratings from septic stuff in a summer that's inclement. I'm wondering if it couldn't be a condition that the plumbing or the septic's looked at to make sure that it's properly up to speed on this property.
Okay, I think the planner will speak to that. Yes, go ahead.
So we did discuss with Nick Snyder, the chief building official. The septic was looked at last in 2015, and he said that it's capable of accommodating, I believe, 5 bedrooms. The current cottage has less than that, and even with this bunkie, there will be less than that. So the septic system, as we understand through the building department, won't need to be updated at this point and is sufficient for what's proposed.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions? No questions? Moved by Member Quinn, second by Member Stokes. Be it resolved that application A 10822 Martin and Hodson to recognize and construct an addition to an existing as-built sleeping cabinet and to recognize and relocate an as-built shed is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a sleeping cabin and shed on an undersized lot. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Chair Edwards from Chris Hodgson. I just want to say thank you very much for taking your time and for everybody at your office for how helpful they've been guiding us through this. And just one last little bit of clarification. So with this approval now, we just have to wait for the appeal period to end and then we can go ahead with our permit.
That's right.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Okay. And I think at this time we'll take a 10-minute comfort break.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hello, we call
Hey, I think I
everyone
fixed it,
back.
guys.
I think we have everyone, 5, we're waiting for. Okay, well, we'll get started. And then the next application is A0323 Gemmel, and that's Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A0323 in the name of Gemmel. The subject lands are known municipally as 1098 Woodwinds Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 213 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is as follows: to demolish an existing one-story dwelling, sun decks, and an as-built shed, and to construct a new one-story dwelling and sun decks. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 12 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, and Terry Guthrie on behalf of Trillium Lakelands District School Board, all stating that they have no objection to the application. A letter of support was received from Michael D. Martin and Catherine Martin, abutting property owners, expressing their support for the application. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved, subject to a condition that the shed be removed as intended. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here?
Good morning, Chair. My name is Bobby Leppington, 379 Regent Street, Aurelia, Ontario, L3V4E1. Through you, Mr. Chair, I did have a small presentation prepared if it was necessary to share. Oh, here it comes. There we go.
And you have 5 minutes.
Oh, it'd be 3 minutes. I'll be very quick. I do assure you that. The planning department has prepared a very comprehensive planning report for you. I'll be very quick and just run through from the site characteristics. As the screen is being frozen. Well, I don't think it's quite necessary, so we'll just ignore it. And I'll say this, that we based our work off of a survey to ensure that we had accuracy from the lake, to ensure that we weren't going to be any closer to the water with our proposed sunroom addition of 3 feet. We do propose to remove a woodshed and propose a rear addition. And we are changing the look of the cottage by doing a new 1-story with a roof line, taller roof line, but still sticking to the 1-story. I did want to bring to your attention the letter of support that the planner had mentioned, and that our application is minor in nature for the variances that we're requesting. So that being said, and the presentation not quite coming to a par here, I'm happy just to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. And we have to ask, is there anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Questions from the members? Okay, the resolution is moved by member Quinn, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that application A0323 Gemmel to permit the construction of a new 1-story dwelling with a screened porch is hereby approved, with the following variance being granted: to permit a lot coverage of 2,122 square feet or 11% of the lot area, and 2, to permit a front yard setback of 37 feet at the closest point from the high water mark for the dwelling with a screened porch. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following condition: 1, that existing shed be removed as intended. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? All those in favor? Okay, thank you. And the next application is A 0523 Pilkington, and that is Ms. Gillen.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-05/23 in the name of Pilkington. The subject lands are known municipally as 1828 Peninsula Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 240 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to construct a one-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck. Please note there were errors in the staff report referring to the directions of abutting properties. The municipal property, sometimes cited as being to the west, is to the north of the subject property. The other neighbor, sometimes referred to as being to the east, is to the south. I apologize for the confusion. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance of this meeting. 3 letters of support from neighboring property owners were submitted with the application. No other submissions were received from neighbors or members of the public. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, and Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, stating no objections. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the requested minor variance application be approved, subject to the following conditions. 1, that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for retention of vegetation and plantings to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer, and that the existing boat lift and dock not shown on the submitted site plan be removed. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is the owner or applicant or agent here? Okay, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Edwards and members of the committee and township staff for your time here today. I'm Eric Munz of the DeConing Group, 3 Armstrong Point Road, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0. I'm the agent on here, here on behalf of the owner. First off, thank you staff for the detailed report and for recommending that this application be approved. I'll be brief. I think staff did a great job laying everything out very well in the report. The application is to demolish and rebuild the existing boathouse with a 1-story addition, including a sun deck that is extending 15 feet outwards from the existing boathouse. This is to provide space for storage on the lower level and a small usable sun deck on the upper level. There's no change to the current boathouse setbacks and the boathouse height. And the boathouse will only project out 40 feet where 50 feet is permitted. So it's remaining quite within the requirements of the bylaw. We do agree with the recommended conditions that staff has put forth. The dock that is there that was not shown is a floating dock and will be removed, and the boat lift will be moved into the boathouse, which will now be able to accommodate it with the extra space. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to assist in any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Other questions from the members? Yes, Member Bridgman first, and I'll be back to you, Member Stokes.
Okay, we good? Okay, so thank you. I have a question to our planner. Is there bathroom accommodation on the 2nd floor of that boathouse? I'm going to guess no, because it was built in the 1930s. Would we have an answer to that?
I can double check the floor plans. They were submitted to us. Just give me one moment. I just don't want to speak without confirming.
Well, you mean the floor plans for the new build?
I believe we were sent both. Let me just double check. have been, Eric may be able to speak to this while I look for the plans as to what is proposed, but I will continue to look in our file.
Yes, if I may, there currently is no boathouse, or sorry, bathroom on the upper level of the boathouse.
Okay, thank you. Then through you, Chair Edwards, this is really an undersized lot for a two-story boathouse, and certainly doesn't have enough room for living accommodation. So I'm in favor of this because you're allowed to replace what you had, but I think there cannot be a plumbing in this boathouse. That would be what I would like to see.
Yes, Member Stokes.
Just a question with respect to the letters of support. There were 3 letters of support. Can someone guide me to where those are? I don't seem to be able to find them.
They were in a supplemental that was sent out.
Okay, well, then that's my error. Apologize.
No, it's fine. Like, this is what we've talked about and that before, because it could be missed, but they were sent out.
Okay, thank you.
And any other questions? I have one to the, I guess, the planning department on page 278. It shows almost a double cupola. And I think on a small undersized lot, it ends up being 30 feet high, because they go to the 25-foot max and then they slip another supposedly cupola up there, and then they slip another one on top of that. And on an undersized lot, I don't think that should be allowed. Yes.
Just wanted to clarify something if I may.
Now, just one second then.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I just wanted to clarify, I believe the drawing that you're referencing is related to the St. Thomas sufferance application. So we may save that consideration for that application. Thank you.
If I may just clear that up, I believe Mr. Sharp is correct, that pertains to the next application, and then that this boathouse is quite a bit under the maximum requirement of 25 feet.
Okay, so if there's no other questions or comments, be it resolved that the application A0523 Pilkington to construct a single-story boathouse addition or the rooftop sun deck is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a side yard setback of 20 feet at closest point from the northerly sun side of the lot projection for a single-story boathouse addition with a rooftop sun deck. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached. And notice of decision is subject to the following conditions. 1, that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title with all securities for retention of vegetation and planting to maintain and revegetate the shoreline buffer, and that the existing boat lift and dock not shown on the submitted site plan be removed. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? Yes, Member Quinn?
I support Bridgman in the fact that I wouldn't like to see a washroom or plumbing. And right now, the floor plan they submitted is one open room, and I would like to see some type of restriction or something on the variance that it doesn't get divided up or plumbing go in.
Okay. Just a second. Then I'm going to let Member Bridgman speak right after you, so I don't have to come back and forth all my sound.
Speaking now.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I just wanted to clarify one point for committee's consideration. It's my understanding that the upper level of the two-story boathouse contains a habitable living space. It's been used for that purpose, albeit without a washroom in the past. I would note that what's in front of committee is a single-story addition. So in other words, what's existing today can be replaced as of right, and the owners could apply to the Township's Development Services Department for a building permit to install a washroom in that second story of the boathouse as of right, is provided it complied with all of the Ontario Building Code requirements. So I just wanted to point that out to committee. Again, in this case, all that's proposed is a single-story addition to the existing boathouse. And you know, like I said, a washroom could be installed in that upper story, according to, provided a building permit is issued. So the committee may want to reflect or debate this restriction on plumbing further if that's what committee wishes. Thank you.
So Chair Edwards, through you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. So I guess what I'm not understanding, Mr. Sharp, is they're allowed to replace exactly what they have there now. So you're telling me that the plumbing is just an automatic addition, and it's a right that we don't have any. I mean, if we don't have anything to say about it, I get that, but I'm surprised that that becomes a right. I thought you could just replace what you had before. So maybe you can help me out on that. Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Yes, so essentially they can replace exactly what they have today. So the upper level is what we would call a habitable room or a sleeping cabin. And although there are no washroom facilities in the upper story today, even without this application that's in front of you today, if the owners were to apply to the Township's Development Services Division for a building permit to install a washroom within that upper floor, and provided it complied with the Ontario Building Code and all of the Township zoning bylaw provisions that would apply, then they could do that as of right. So I guess that's what I'm saying is you're considering imposing a restriction on something that's permitted, and what's in front of you today is a single-story boathouse addition with a rooftop sun deck that is within a side yard. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'll read the resolution. Moved by Member Quinn, second by Member Golden Green. Be it resolved that application A0523 Pilkington to construct a single-story boathouse addition with a rooftop sun deck is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a side yard setback of 20 feet at the closest point from the northerly side lot line projection, and a single-story boathouse addition with a rooftop sun deck. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and is subject to the following conditions. 1, that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the planning app be entered into and registered on title with securities for retention of vegetation and planting to remain revegetate and the shoreline and buffer, and two, that the existing boat lift and dock not shown on the submitted site plan be removed. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, and the next one is A0623. That is Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A0623 in the name of St. Thomas Sufferance Warehouse. The subject land known municipally as 1111 Gulf Avenue Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plans on pages 269 to 271 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is as follows: to construct a single-story addition with a rooftop sun deck onto an existing two-story boathouse containing a housekeeping unit, bow slips, and marine storage. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 12 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Tim Socko, the Township's Public Works Technician, and Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, both stating that they have no objection to the application. Following the circulation of comments to committee, a letter of support was received from Nick Cronin, owner of Cronitech Construction, whom is performing the works for the proposed dock and boathouse redevelopment. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. And is the applicant's agent here wish to speak on this? Thank you. Mr. Muntz?
Hello again, Eric Muntz of the Dakota Group, 3 Armstrong Point Road, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0, the agent here on behalf of the owner. Thank you again, staff, for the detailed report and for recommending that this application be approved. I'll be brief here again, very similar reliefs to the last application. The purpose of this application is to demolish and rebuild the existing boathouse with a 1-story sun deck addition. The proposed sun deck wraps around the sides of the boathouse and extend out in front of the boathouse. It is only the sun deck in the northern side of the boathouse where the relief is required. The entire portion of the sun deck that extends in front of the boathouse is within the required setback. As staff has noted in the report, it is only a small triangle section of the sun deck that requires relief. And the addition is supported by post, so to be considered a boat port. Of course, this has much less impact on the built form compared to if it was enclosed. And also, as highlighted in staff report, we did reach out to the neighbor to the north, whom would be the most affected by the addition, and they have no concerns with the proposal. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to assist in any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, are there questions from the members? No question? Sorry, my laptop's acting up a bit here.
I think Lisa has a lesson. Or a
Pardon?
question? You said how to handle.
Oh, yes. Good. And that,
So can you hear me?
yes,
Okay. So this property is not being run as a resort, correct? Like it's just got the zoning and the cabins on it, but is not being run as a commercial resort at the present time?
can someone from staff answer that? Yes.
Through you, Chair Edwards. We did reach out to the agent for the application to confirm the use of the property, and they have confirmed that it is used, it is functioning as a resort. But I would defer to Mr. Muntz to perhaps elaborate.
Okay, now I will ask the question in just a minute on. I have the right one now on page 278. Is there a double cupola on that, or is that a different application?
Through you,
Okay,
Oh.
go ahead.
Through you, Chair Edwards, we did take a look at section 3.11 of the zoning bylaw, which provides information about cupolas and height exemptions. And it provides that if the cupola does not exceed 100 square feet in size and contains no floor area, then it would be exempt from that height. And the agent for the application did confirm that the cupola is less than 100 square feet in size and does not contain any floor area and would therefore be exempt from that height requirement.
Even if it's a double cupola?
Sorry, for you. I'm not sure if you mean double cupola in width or in height or how.
Well, I'm looking at it. I'm looking, if I've got it right, on page 278. Can you go to that? And it shows it 25-foot height, and then they go up, and then they go up again.
Yeah, so I believe provided it's not, it doesn't exceed 100 square feet, then it could.
But under how much?
100 square feet, 100.
Okay, Mr. Muntz, can you answer that?
Yes, I can. So the cupola itself, the entire cupola footprint is under the maximum size of 100 square feet. And I know I can understand how you would describe this as a double cupola, but I would still consider it one single cupola. Essentially, my understanding would be we could have this sort of how we have that step from the one height to the next. We could potentially be allowed per the bylaw to bring that entire cupola up to the height. And so, but this just kind of the design of it has the double cupola look, I suppose.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Moved by member Stokes, second by member Bridgman. Be it resolved that application A0623 St. Thomas Sufferance Warehouse Limited to construct a single-story boathouse addition with a rooftop sun deck is hereby approved, with the following variance being granted. One, to permit a side yard setback of 8 feet at the closest point from the northerly side lot line projection for a single-story boathouse addition with a rooftop sun deck. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
Pardon? Oh, sorry. I was getting so much feedback on hers. I guess it was in that room. Okay, and the Villas of Muskoka Lakes Limited and that is A0723, and that is again Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application.
Excuse me,
A.
can you turn your sound down a little bit? We're getting a terrible echo in here.
My sound?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay.
How's that?
Is that better?
A little bit better, yes. You were getting a terrible echo.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so I will start again. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A0723 in the name of Villas of Lake Muskoka Limited. The subject lands are known municipally as 1841 Highway 118 West. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 299 of the agenda package. An enlarged version of this site plan can be seen on page 305. The purpose and effect of the application is as follows: to redevelop an existing accessory dwelling and associated garage to form one of a number of resort units on the property. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 10 days in advance of this meeting, and 2 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, and Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, both stating that they have no objection to the application. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here wish to speak on this?
Good
I
morning,
see we
Mr.
have
Chair.
someone.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of committee. My name is Stefan Scherbeck from Plantscape Inc., 104 Kimberley Avenue, P1L 1Z8. Thank you to Ms. Crowder and Mr. Sharp for their help and support with this application. It's very straightforward, fairly straightforward. The applicant will be rebuilding this existing structure on the current foundation with some minor additions. As detailed in the staff report, the existing and somewhat colorful unit will be replaced with something that's slightly larger with the inclusion of a new screen porch and a connecting garage. A small addition to the existing sun deck that's situated in front will result in one that wraps around the entire front of the building. Due to the presence of the existing natural buffer, the vegetation buffer, there will be very little visual impacts onto the neighboring property. And again, very little visual impact when viewing the property from the water. Staff's review of the 4 tests for a minor variance are complete and accurate. The planning justification included with this submission provides a very similar policy review, and we land on the same planning conclusions that this application meets the intent of your official plan and zoning bylaw. It's desirable and appropriate for this property and in this location, and it's minor in nature. I would respectfully request committee's favorable consideration of this application, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wish to speak in support?
We have 2 people requested.
Okay, are they in support or objection? Okay, well, then that bring them in one at a time then, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you turn your video on if you?
I'm not a techie, so I'm trying to see how I do that. Here we go.
That's good. Okay.
So thank you, Chair Edwards and committee members. My name is Brian Spence, owner of the adjacent property, 1833 Muskoka Road, 118 West, P1L 1W8. Since we have the site plan up on the screen, my major concern as a neighbor is that, and it's unfortunate that our buildings aren't placed on the site plan, but at the bottom of the site plan where it says rail fence, of course, there isn't one, but our 2 buildings are immediately below that red line. And My objection is the wraparound deck. Right now, the easterly portion of that deck, which would be added, will look directly into our kitchen window and our boathouse bedroom window. And that's our concern with regard to noise and privacy. In reading the staff report, we received the information last Wednesday, so we had all of 2 days to sort of digest this. And I immediately called Ms. Crowder to give her my comments. Excuse me. And they admit that they hadn't talked to any of the neighbors. Fair enough. But if I could direct you to the staff report, particularly figure 2. Let me know if you have that up.
Okay, that is showing the deck.
Well, it shows what's there now of the deck, but if you look below the deck, you can clearly see our boathouse.
I see it. Yeah, I see it. now.
And so the suggestion that there's a tree buffer and lots of interruption is not correct at all. And in fact, our house is just beside the boathouse and closer to the subject building that we're talking about. And so my concern is clearly, again, a noise and privacy. Try to save what little we have left. And just to be clear, most of the inhabitants of these buildings are renters. They're there for a 1-week vacation and they want to party and they want to have a great time. And I have no problem with that as long as it doesn't impact me. They won't have very much regard for my privacy or noise reduction. But so while I don't have a problem with the new deck facing the way the building does, I don't see the need for the wraparound portion that clearly would impact our privacy. Excuse me. So on that basis, I would respectfully request that the variance be turned down as it relates to that corner of the deck.
Okay, thank you. And there was someone else who wanted to speak as well, so we'll bring them in next. You know who it is coming in?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you turn your video on if you like?
I'm not sure I know how.
Okay.
Hang on. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't get it on.
No, that's fine. Just your
Thank you for
name,
the
address.
opportunity to speak. Yep.
Okay. we
Thank
need
you
your
for the
name.
opportunity to speak. Yes, my name is Jillian Taylor, and our family bought a home on 1803 Muskoka Road, number 8, Highway 118 West, P1L1W8. We are located 2 lots east of the proposed variance location, and we are here year-round. We do not feel this application is a minor variance and ask that it be denied. We are outraged at the level of noise and lack of privacy experienced already based on the sheer number of people occupying the resort and villas. We've found people sitting on the docks, having lunch. We have rescued several people not wearing life jackets who've fallen out of their canoes. We had to drive one father and daughter back to the villa, and the music played from their watercraft is overwhelming at times. We pay hefty taxes to be here and bought our home years ago to enjoy some level of privacy, which is being compromised as more people occupy these villas. Again, this variance is not minor and its impact would be far-reaching. We wonder when our rights as residents will be more seriously considered. Also, the timing of this submission was suspect in that everyone is away for the winter. There would have been a lot more concerned owners present if they'd had been notified at a time they were here. Also concerned about the docks showing on the southeast corner. They look like they will be the next variance applied for, and hence more traffic, noise, etc. When does it stop? Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this? Okay, Mr. Sherback, you'd like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, just two points for consideration. This is not a new unit. It's been always contemplated on the approved site plan with the township. That includes the docking and the structure itself. This is not a new unit. Again, it's just a replacement. With respect to the use of the structure, the application in front of you is just for variances to the decks and to the structure itself. It's still considered an accessory dwelling in accordance with the subject site-specific amendment. Our client's intention is to keep it that way as an accessory dwelling unit, which means it will have very little, if any, rental capability on this structure, which is clearly subject to some strict public restrictions or resort unit restrictions. So again, the use is, it will continue to be what is in place today. And again, the variance itself is just for the deck and the addition to the screen porch at the front.
Okay, thank you. I've been looking at the drawings that Mr. Spence had asked, and figure 2 shows his boathouse and that through there. And then when I go down to figure 6, showing it wrapping around, so that's how much closer it's getting to his property. If you're looking through from where the red arrow is through to his boathouse, and now he's got the deck running right around him. And that, I just wanted to mention that and see what committee thought of that. Any questions or comments? I'll go with just a minute. Lisa Grogan Green first, and then to Member Bridger.
Okay. I think that if I was living next door to this and somebody decided to put up a wraparound deck, I would be furious. And I think that Mr. Spence is to be commended for not getting too upset and being quite calm through his remarks. We all know the history on this site and some of the litigation that took place. And it's interesting now to hear from another neighbor the level of noise and inconvenience and sometimes nuisance that's created. It is an overdeveloped property. We all know that. And I don't think this is minor at all. So that is my opinion. Don't know how anyone else feels.
Okay, thank you. Just a second.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chair Edwards. Excuse me, nothing like swallowing the wrong way. Excuse me, I have great sympathy for Mr. Spence's comment. I would not approve the wraparound part of the deck. In terms of the other neighbor, unfortunately, noise level and everything else is not part of the planning process. I have a lot of sympathy for what you're saying, but it's not something that I can consider under the minor variances for this. But I am agreement with Ms. Grogan Green. I would not allow the wraparound deck. I think that's a great imposition on the neighbor. Thank you.
Member Quinn?
I'd like to see it deferred and with the drawings come back without that deck on the end and maybe a window on that side and a sliding glass door system on the front. And I think then it's minor in nature, and I'd like to do what we can to help the neighbor that's closest to it. So I'd like this deferred and see if they can just revamp it a bit to make it so it's palatable.
Okay, Member Stokes.
Yeah, just a question. There was a comment, I believe, from Mr. Spence about trees. When I look at figure 7, I'm assuming that's the set of stand of trees that are being referred to. I can't really see how dense they are or what impact that would have on privacy or possibly noise reduction. Is there anything that could be done to increase the density or do something with respect to the plantings that might help on that respect, regardless of whether the wraparound portion is approved or not?
Okay, I think that is one thing. Sorry, Mr. Spence, and now we're in deliberation now. But I'll ask Mr. Sherbak, would you like it deferred?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I would agree with Member Quinn. I just received a message from the owners that they are willing to remove portions of that, and we'd be happy to have a discussion with Mr. Spence to find some compromise in terms of maybe some middle ground here. So a deferral would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, looking at it, I would say try and leave the deck the way it is and not wrap it around, because I think that Mr. Spence has a very valid point. And that's so, now, Mr. Sharp, just 1 second.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I just wanted to take a moment to address Member Stokes' question as a new member of Committee of Adjustment. It may be beneficial for him to understand. It doesn't sound like we'll need to impose a requirement for plantings in this case if the applicant's willing to amend the proposal to remove the portion of the sun deck within the side yard or to amend the configuration. But I just wanted to note for his edification that there would be the ability to impose plantings as part of this approval through a minor variance agreement. So I just thought I'd mention that. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. Mr. Spence, I'm sorry, but it will be deferred. Meet with the owners and see what you could come up with. But I think we are sympathetic to the wraparound porch, that's for sure, the deck. So, and that, have a meeting and they can come back and hopefully come up with a solution. Member Quinn.
Yeah, and I think I heard Planscape say that they would speak to Mr. Spence and maybe come to their terms and get to a point where there's support from the neighbor. That would be much easier for us to vote on and approve it.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll set this aside. It'll be adjourned. And then we will go on to the next one, which is A0823 Keene, and that is Ms. Gill.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and Committee. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-08/23 in the name of Keene. The subject lands are known municipally as 1086 Paignton House Road, Unit 1. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 320 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to permit the enlargement of an existing dock on an undersized lot and to permit an overlength dock addition. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance of this meeting. Craig Waits, neighboring property owner to the immediate west, submitted a letter of objection to the application stating concerns with the potential encroachment of the extended dock into the projected side yard lot line and what he believes to be inaccuracies with the measurements of the existing dock and depths as shown on the submitted site plan. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, and Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, stating no objections. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the requested minor variance application be approved subject to the following condition: that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title along with securities for retention of vegetation and plantings to maintain and revegetate the shoreline buffer. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the owner or agent, I believe we have the agent.
Hello, Mr. Chair. My name is Adrian Latavsky. I'm with the planning firm of Johnston Latavsky, and I'm here as the agent and representative of the applicant. My address is 235 Lakeshore Road East in Oakville, Ontario, L6J1N7.
Okay, and you have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much. There was actually a very brief presentation, PowerPoint that was provided. Is it possible to get that up on the screen?
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And so, first off, I just simply want to acknowledge staff's help in the processing of this application. And we are, of course, aware of the supportive planning report and are very grateful for staff's review. And likewise, we have prepared a letter reviewing, providing our opinion on the application and reviewing the 4 tests and why we believe indeed this application meets all of the 4 tests. And simply put, I would like to think that this is in fact a fairly simple and straightforward application. We are only dealing with 2 variances here. And but the ultimate purpose of this is to permit the extension of an existing dock. The actual variance is for 14 feet. There is an existing dock there today that is 40 feet, which will then, if approved, be extended to 80 feet, but the permitted length today is 66 feet. So the actual variance that we're requesting is only 14 feet. So that's the basic math there. But perhaps if you could advance to the next slide, and that gives you the location of our property, the property that we're dealing with here. We are just to the east of the JW Marriott Resort on Paynton Road, and it's the dock will extend into Lake Rosso. That is the lake frontage that we have here. Next slide, please. And so what we have here is an aerial view of the existing situation. And so in red, we have a representation of the existing dock, the dock that's there today. The main purpose for, in fact, really the only reason for this application is the fact that the water is really quite shallow at this location. And even with the existing dock there, the boats are essentially grounded and must be pushed out into the water. So extending the dock to that length gives you just enough depth to, even so at that distance, the depth is still pretty modest. What we can see though, is that even as extended, the dock as proposed will still be behind and not protrude nearly as much as the existing docks on either the east or the west. I do note that the neighbor to the west also has recently received approval for a dock extension themselves, and it's just acknowledging the shallow nature of this particular bay and that there is a need to extend the docks out in this case. Next slide, please. Great, and it's really just a nice view here of the bay and the existing dock. You can see that the boats and the watercraft that are there, those are in fact basically jet-powered boats. That are essentially sitting. Depth is not quite enough. They have to be pushed out. Those things that you see there, and let's just give you a view there. So next slide, please. So this here is the site plan that we have submitted. I do want to note, and I say this because we are aware of, in fact, of some concerns expressed by the neighbor to the west. And so I just want to take a brief moment to respond to those. The site plan, and this is just a portion of it, the staff has the entire site plan, and I do believe it was included in the notice as well. And that site plan was prepared based upon a 2014 survey. So it's about as accurate as we can hope it to be. And this shows you there how the dock is pretty much right through the middle of the property, the water lot there. And the only variance that we're dealing with for the dock is the length. Now, I haven't yet touched upon the second variance, which has to do with the lot frontage. And the existing frontage for this lot is 48.3 feet, whereas there is a minimum lot frontage requirement in the bylaw for 50 feet. I just stress here, this is an existing lot of record. And so the variance really is, in regards to the frontage at least, quite technical in nature, just an opportunity to recognize and legalize an existing condition. And with really no consequence that I can see it there. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, too much more of your time rather. I'm happy to answer any questions there may be. And I do hope and request that you will approve our application.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition? Are there questions from the members?
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a dial-in.
Sorry, is there somebody coming in? Okay, just 1 second then. Hello, are you there? They're still trying to come in?
They're a dial-in.
Oh, they're dialing, okay.
They're also muted.
Yeah. Are they still coming in, Alex?
They have to unmute themselves.
You have to unmute yourself if you wish to speak. And how is that accomplished on the phone, Alex? Can you tell them?
There should be something on his phone. *6, try *6.
Try *6. If you'd like to try that.
Or there should be an icon on the face of his phone. There you go.
Hello.
Okay. Hello, go ahead, sir.
Yes, my name is John Fan. Address 142 Cranbrook Avenue, Toronto, M5M1M5. I am the neighbor to the west of the dock, and I have seen the letter of concern from our neighbor to the east on this, and I don't know how it's going to get reconciled, but if people have confidence in the survey information, that would be great. Our concern, of course, is anything in the area gets built in, a very small bay we have there. It is shallow, as has been noted. So we just have concerns about the length of the dock, and that's really it. I was expecting to hear more from the other neighbor on the other side in terms of their concerns, whether there be any resolution from this committee on the concerns that was stated. I'm not registered as a for or against this. I was wanting to watch the process come through. I look forward to a committee decision on it, being informed of any follow-up on it.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And who had their hand up? I think it was Member Stokes. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just, it's more, I guess, a question, comment for the committee relative to the survey and the 2014 survey, I believe that was referenced earlier, and the suggestion that we could require them to confirm the survey. And I'm wondering whether council or whether the committee believes that's something that's necessary. It doesn't sound unreasonable to me as an ask.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, member, I'll go with member Quinn first and then member Bridgman so I can turn my speaker off.
So to Mr. Stokes' question about the survey, I think there's some other things to talk about here before we put them through an expense of a survey. On a 48-foot lot, a dock going out 80 feet, even though it talks about it being I think a 12-foot variance, I just think it is a big ask, and it's maybe too much on a frontage like that in a bay, where neighbors have to navigate to their docks in shallow water, and with swimmers. I have concerns with putting it out that far.
Okay, and then just a second, we'll go to member Bridgman.
Okay, thank you, Chair Edwards. The property to the west, and I know I'm sort of throwing this at staff. I remember we gave them a 100-foot dock somewhere in the last term because the water is so shallow there that the neighbor to the west, I'm pretty sure the one to the west that abuts the Marriott property, has been granted this very long dock. So I'm having some difficulty understanding their concern here. An objection to the next neighbor getting the dock for the same reason, for the water being too shallow. So I don't know if we can confirm that, or if Chair Edwards, you even think that is relevant to this. There's Mr. Sharp. Oh.
Through you, Chair Edwards. Thank you for your question, Member Bridgman. Yes, I can confirm that in 2021, the abutting owner to the west was approved a zoning bylaw amendment application to permit a dock of 120 feet in length on that property. Thank you.
Mr. Sharp, can you confirm when we gave that dock, was it straight or was there an L at the end? I thought it was straight at the time, but maybe I'm wrong. In fact, I think the pictures would probably show it with the presentation.
You, through you, Chair Edwards, the dock that was approved on the abutting property to the west, it was essentially a very long dock, quite narrow as far as the extension from the shoreline, and then there's a platform at the end of the dock that was approved, and it's orientated toward the west side of the property, and staff had looked at that and considered that in their review of the application and the separation distance that would be provided by that approval and a requirement to comply with it, and what's proposed through this application. Thank you.
I'll let the agent speak. You had your hand up again.
Thank you, sir. I just, grateful for the opportunity to respond and just offer a few thoughts. So, in fact, actually, part of my response was already looked after there. Through you, Mr. Chair, Member Bridgman was asking about the adjacent approval, and yes, indeed, as already mentioned, the neighbor received an approval in late 2021 for a 120-foot dock, which likewise really just acknowledges the shallow nature of this bay. And I just, in terms of whether or not the proposed dock would be too long or project out too far, I would direct your attention again to the aerial photo in the presentation that I was showing before. I don't know if you're able to get that up on your screen or whether it can be put back on the screen at all there. It just simply illustrates that in red, it shows the existing dock, which is really quite short in comparison to not only the dock to the west, but you can see an existing dock to the east protruding out from under the trees. It's well behind that. That's the existing dock. And then even as extended, yes, it is going to 80 feet, but the variance that we're speaking of here is only 14 feet. And even as extended, it will still be well behind the boat. Certainly the proposed dock to the west, even the existing dock to the west, and the existing dock to the east. So I think this is a perfectly reasonable ask in this case. And once again, I just am grateful for staff support. And the only other question, actually, forgive me, I realized I wanted to address the question about the survey. Of course, we can understand the question, and if such a question to confirm the survey is asked of us, we will certainly do whatever we can to satisfy the committee's concern and question. But we do have indeed a prepared 2014 survey that was prepared for a consent application back at that time and accurately shows the lot and the dock location. And so it's the best information that I can think of going forward with. But at the end of the day, we of course will accept the committee's direction. That's all I have to say. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions or comments at this time? So they do have to survey member Stokes, and that I don't think I would put them through that expense again. And that, so if there's no more questions or comments, I will read the resolution. Moved by member Bridgman, second by member Grogan Green, be it resolved that application A0822 Keene to construct an addition to an existing dock is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. One, to permit enlargement of an existing dock on an undersized lot, to permit an existing dock length of 80 feet. These variants are shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following condition. One, that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for retention of vegetation and plantings to maintain and revegetate the shoreline buffer. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of a decision. Any questions or comments? I'll call the question. Oh, yeah, that's fine.
So,
All those.
No,
Oh, okay. Sorry, Mr. Quinn. I thought.
I had a comment, and it goes back to the survey. I think a survey should be done if we're going to approve this, showing the setback from the lot lines out at 100 feet to make sure it's not going over or getting too close to the side yards or an extension of.
So what you're saying that you would like this adjourned until that's verified?
Yes, I would.
Okay, and anybody else think the same thing? Yes, member Grogan Green?
Yes, I agree with Joe because, you know, it's kind of ironic here. Everybody complains about the docking coming out of the Marriott and potentially Cleveland's house. And here we are extending other people's docks that are right next to the site out 100 feet or 80 feet, just because they happen to be in a shallow bay. Them's the breaks. And I actually don't think that this is very minor at all to extend the dock out 80 feet or 100 feet. I don't care what the earlier decision was. In my opinion, it's too far.
Okay, any other comments on this? And that, Mr. Member Stokes, would you like to see this? Because you had asked about the survey, so you'd like it verified then and deferred?
Well, I think that, again, I think that is a reasonable ask, and I agree with members Quinn and Grogan Green.
Okay, I think, sir, we should actually adjourn this. We don't want to vote on it in case it gets turned down. And that, so we'll adjourn this and get the survey done and make sure everything is okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And the next application is A 1123. Ringler and Morissette, and that is Ms. Gillen. You're a busy lady today.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair Edwards and Committee. Yes, the next application to be heard is minor variance application A-1123 in the name of Ringler and Morissette. The subject lands are known municipally as 1034 Center Avenue, Unit 1. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 340 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to construct a two-story garage with storage area in the upper level. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 13 days in advance of this meeting. No neighboring property owners or members of the public contacted the township in relation to the application. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, stating no objections, but that at the time of building permit application, the existing hydro pole and associated overhead conductors will be required to be moved in compliance with OVC setback requirements. And comments were received from Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, stating no objections. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the requested minor variance application be approved, subject to the following condition: that the existing privy and woodshed not shown on the site plan be removed. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I believe we have the owner here. Okay.
Hello, everybody. I appreciate what staff did to prepare for the application. I don't have anything to add that's not in the report.
We'll need your name, address.
I beg your pardon. Peter Ringler, Ringler, 4271 Taywood Drive, Burlington, Ontario, Larry 7 Mary 4 Victor 1.
Okay, thank you. And is there anyone else who is wishing to speak on this?
The agent is in.
Is it?
The agent.
The agent? Okay, bring them in, please.
Good morning, Chair Edwards and committee members. My name is Jessica Coker with Due North Design and Drafting. I'm at 5 River House Lane, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H2J3. I am here as well with Peter Ringler and representing Marie-Claude Morissette. Thank you for the detailed report, Lisa. I don't have anything further to add regarding the application other than the clients agree with the conditions recommended by staff, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And is there anyone else in support? Anyone in opposition? Okay, other questions from the members? Yes, Member Brogan Green.
Am I muted again? No.
Oh, no,
All
you're
right.
fine.
My question is related to, first of all, I just a comment that usually with two-story garages and boathouses, we get interior site plans. And this time we only see one side elevation, I think, unless I'm mistaken, and the front elevation. And my other, so that's a comment. I don't know why we don't see what's going on inside of there. And secondly, why is it that the cabin, it looks to me like a cabin with a deck, is called a shed? Why would that be? It has windows. I think it has a deck. It was on figure 5, page 5 of 15 on not sure what page of our own package, but it could be 340. But on figure 5, view of the shed shown on the submitted site plan. It looks to me like a cabin.
I believe it's 328.
Yes, 328. Looks a lot like a cabin to me.
Okay. Yes. And that, Ms. Gillen.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Yes, so that was labeled as a shed on the site plan that was submitted by the applicant. We generally to keep consistency, label things in the report as they are labeled on the site plan. However, there are previous files where historically that was a sleeping cabin. So I would ask for confirmation from the agent, but I do believe it is a sleeping cabin, and as per our zoning bylaw, a change of use in that wouldn't be permitted. So it would remain a sleeping cabin. So I would just ask for confirmation from the applicant and their agent.
Okay, would somebody like to answer that, either the agent or the owner?
Yeah, it's been used as a combination, mostly a storage unit. We have had a bed in there, so I'm not sure of all the definitions, but if the more appropriate terminology is cabin, then I would defer to the agent or staff, but fine with that terminology.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Sharp, just a second.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. It's not clear to me that we know exactly what the building is. I'm hearing that it's a sleeping cabin and a shed, but in any event, it should be labeled appropriately on the submitted site plan. In this case, I'm not sure what bearing it really adds to the matter at hand, given that what is proposed is a two-story garage with a storage area in the upper level, while a sleeping cabin is permitted on the property as of right. So I would just add those comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Yes, sorry, Member Green, I just looked away for a second. Go ahead.
I feel like sometimes with garages, we've made people put on title that it is only for storage. Because I think, and I may be wrong, that the property would qualify for a two-story boathouse with habitable space. And this garage, it looks to me like it could also be easily considered, could be used as habitable space. So is there a way of making sure that it is not habitable space, if that's what the applicant claims?
Okay, anyone else? Okay, anyone else have concerns? Just trying to get the. Yes, Member Quinn, sorry, I was just trying to get that up on my screen.
Through the chair, but Grogan Green had mentioned that property would qualify for a two-story boathouse or story and a half boathouse, but I believe it's on the Moon River, and I don't believe that would be the case.
Okay.
True, and maybe Bryce can clarify that.
Yes, Mr. Sharp, just 1 second.
Sorry about that. I was waiting to be told to speak. Sorry about that. Yeah, so just maybe I think there's two questions. So whether a two-story boathouse would be permitted on this lot. It's on the Moon River, so it's a Category 2 lake. The two-story boathouse wouldn't be permitted, and I think that the root of the issue or the concern, I think, from committee is largely with respect to the use of the upper level. It's a size that would be greater than would be permitted for a sleeping cabin. So I think in part, perhaps the concern is addressed in that, with a second story floor area in excess of 650 square feet, it wouldn't be permitted, according to the zoning bylaw, it wouldn't be permitted to function as a sleeping cabin, particularly if there's already a sleeping cabin on the property. But with that being said, as we have indicated in the past, the enforcement of this type of use could be quite difficult. And if a committee continues to have the concern, there would be the ability to include a condition to the approval, if that's what committee desires, to require a minor variance agreement wherein the owner would agree not to utilize the upper level for a habitable use. In other words, it would be required to be storage, and that agreement would be registered on title. It would be binding on future owners, and it would perhaps assist staff with enforcement if the use were ever to become an issue down the road. Thank you.
Sorry, would you like to see a condition like that? Yes, Member Bridgman, just 1 second.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Well, to me, that condition hinges on if we've already got a sleeping cabin on the property. And I'm hearing we don't know what it is. So can somebody help me out on that? Because if there's a sleeping cabin on the property, then no, the garage can't be used. But if that's a shed, it sure looks like a sleeping cabin to me. But if that's a shed, then I don't see putting that restriction on the garage. Although you tell me it can't be used because it's too big. All right, then I don't see any problem with putting that restriction on the garage.
Can I ask a clarifying question? As the homeowner?
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Part of what's happened to us is we thought we were originally going to be on the April 13th agenda for this group, and we're still finalizing the drawings. Someone asked earlier about a floor plan for the upper area. My understanding is, provided we're in compliance with zoning, we can seek through the building permit process, the restriction of the 682. Through the building permit process, we can apply for, and if we're compliant, we could make the upper floor habitable. At which point we would have to remove the sleeping cabin / shed that we're debating. Is that correct?
I'll let Mr. Sharp answer that.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I see that Ms. Gillen has her hand up, but perhaps I can try and lend some clarity before she speaks. If the accessory building, if we want to call it that, in the front yard is as a sleeping cabin, it really should be labeled as a sleeping cabin on the submitted site plan. So, and if it is a sleeping cabin, then a second sleeping cabin wouldn't be permitted on the property. There's a limitation on the number of habitable buildings that can occur on the property, one dwelling and one sleeping cabin. So I don't know if that helps clarify the question, but it sounds like the applicant is perhaps really still just finalizing their plans. So I'm not sure whether perhaps an adjournment in this case may be best. Just to allow the applicant and their agent to evaluate exactly what exists on the property and what is proposed, just to lend some clarity to the matter. Thank you.
I will ask the applicant then, would you like this deferred till the April meeting so you can get everything straightened out on this?
Yeah, Mr. Chairperson, can we, so that would be the only path as opposed to at permit if we applied for within compliance zoning and agreed to a condition to remove the sleeping cabinet. That's not an option at this point to get the minor variance approved today and then finalize plans through the permitting process.
Again, I'll turn it back to Mr. Sharp.
Edwards. Certainly, one thing that could occur is that the accessory building, if it's a sleeping cabin in the front yard area, could be removed. And then that would open up the ability to have a sleeping cabin. The issue is that the floor area of a sleeping cabin is limited to 650 square feet. I believe the upper level of the proposed building is in excess of 800 square feet. So, you know, if that was the applicant's intention, my recommendation would be to adjourn this matter and amend the application to bring forward what's actually proposed, so that we can have some assurance that the applicant's not going to run into issues at the building permit stage if the application is approved. Thank you.
Okay, then I would like to avail myself of the adjournment, please.
Sorry, sir, and that we couldn't hear that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd like to take the adjournment then, so we can finalize plans.
I think that you're wise doing that, and then it doesn't leave any gray areas. Okay, so we'll adjourn that at the applicant's request. And we have A 1223 Schultz, and that is Ms. Gilligan again.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-12/23 in the name of Schultz. The subject lands are known municipally as 1082 Mortimer's Point Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 359 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to replace a dock. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 10 days in advance of this meeting. David and Alexandra Wheaton, neighbors to the immediate east of the subject property, submitted a letter of objection in response to the application, which was circulated to committee members in advance of this meeting. I do apologize for some confusion on the staff report where it was stated that no formal comments were received. The comments came in just before the report was published, and the summary was therefore added at the last minute, but removal of the contradictory bullet point in the analysis section was missed. The Wheaton's concerns included what they cite as errors on the submitted site plan, conformity with other docks in the neighborhood, potential effects on property values, impact to views from their dock, potential effects to wildlife, fishermen, canoers, paddle boaters, and children. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, and Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, stating no objections. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the requested minor variance application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I see the agent is here. Go ahead, Mr. Donaldson, if you're the agent.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, committee. Excuse me, Sean Donaldson, 3687 Highway 118 West, Port Carling, Ontario. I'm here on behalf of the Schultz Hislop family, representing them as agent. Just would like to go through a couple kind of key items on this site plan. Quite interesting as we're looking at our second 48-foot lot frontage piece today. Just would like to highlight some of the differences between the earlier application and this one. This application, we are proposing to come out to 63.5 feet. Currently, the dock that is there is 25 feet long. As you can imagine, in shallow water as this bay is, becomes difficult to park boats. Even at 60 feet from shore, the water is still quite shallow. But it'll give the Schultz family an ability to have an area where their children, their twin 4.5-year-old children, will be able to play on the dock without, slipping between a boat, whatever else. They only have one boat, so they're really just looking for a little bit of extra length. Right now, the current dock is straddling the the western lot line. Trying to bring it closer into conformity by having it at 3.5 feet. The neighbors who are in objection to this currently, the side yard projection is 20 feet. It's actually 29 feet at shore, but because the lot lines are converging, makes it quite an interesting position that, on a 12-foot wide dock, which conforms the cumulative dock width, there really isn't room for a 12-foot wide dock unless we go for an application which has a minor variance on both sides. I'm here, I believe the homeowners are planning to be here, but I'm not sure they are. Maybe they're not. So I kind of know where they stand with things. Love to hear your feedback as committee, and if there's anything that you may request, then we're all ears.
Thank you very much. And is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition? No? Are there questions from the members? No questions? Yes? Oh, somebody's put their hand up. Just 1 second then. Just waiting to bring somebody in.
Hi, I just wanted to indicate that we're here.
Okay.
Kelly Schultz and
Okay.
Alex Hislop. Would you like me to say our address?
Yes, please. Name and address would be great, and postal code.
So Kelly Schultz, 239 Joycey Boulevard, that's Toronto. Mary 5, Mary 2, Victor 6. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Seeing none. Moved by member Bridgman, second by member Stokes. Be it resolved that application A 1223 Schultz to demolish an existing dock and construct a new dock is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a side yard setback of 3 feet at the closest point from the westerly side lot line projection for a dock, and 2, to permit a side yard setback of 20 feet at the closest point from the easterly side lot line projection for the dock. These variants are granted as shown on the plan attached in the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried.
Thank you, committee.
And now we go to unfinished business. And that is A 8622 O'Donnell, and that is Ms. Gilligan again.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-86 of 22 in the name of O'Donnell. The subject lands are known municipally as 1258 Ferndale Road. I would direct committee's attention to the revised site plan on page 368 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to permit a one-story garage. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was initially circulated on December 2nd, 2022, and the application was heard at the December 12th Committee of Adjustment meeting. A letter of support from the manager of the adjacent property was submitted with the application. At the December meeting, the committee adjourned the application for a decision to be made at a later date, so compliance with the Ontario Building Code in relation to a septic system in the vicinity of the garage could be clarified. The applicant's agent subsequently submitted an updated site plan showing the proposed garage location in relation to the septic system, and the township's chief building official indicated he has no further concerns. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval of the application, staff have recommended the following condition: that a building permit be issued for a new private on-site sewage disposal system as outlined in their staff report. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Great. And I believe the agent is right here now. Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you, and good afternoon to committee, Chair Edwards. Yes, so we took the application back. If you recall, there were concerns about being able to fit a septic system, which we have shown that we can. So I think everything has been looked after. I just wanted to note that the condition that the planning department's asking for, while is fine with us, is somewhat redundant you can't get a building permit without getting that building permit. So it sort of takes care of itself. But either way, I just wanted to make committee aware of that. And I'm here to answer any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have to ask, is there anyone wishing to speak in support? Anyone in objection? Okay, questions from the members? Seeing none, I'll read this. With the member Green, second by member Quinn, be it resolved that application A 8622 O'Donnell to demolish an existing one-story garage and construct a new one-story garage is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. One, to permit a rear yard setback of 1 foot from a single-story garage. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of the decision and is subject to the following condition. One, that a building permit be issued for a new private on-site sewage disposal system as outlined in the staff report plan 2023-02. This shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
And the next one is B 6122 ML. Guess who?
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee. The next application to be heard is returning consent application B 6122 ML in the name of the Incorporated Synod of the Diocese of Algoma. The subject lands are known municipally as 1333 Peninsula Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 380 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is as follows. Consent application B6122ML grants a right-of-way over a portion of property owned by the Incorporated Synod of the Diocese of Algoma in favor of property owned by Gary Gilbert. A decision on consent application B6122ML was adjourned by Committee of Adjustment on February 13th, 2023. The application was adjourned to allow the applicant and the agent an opportunity to consider and discuss considerations in planning staff's initial report and determine how they wish to proceed. The applicant's agent has advised that the applicant wishes to proceed according to staff's alternative recommendations in the original staff report. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and recommend approval. If committee is considering approval, staff recommend the following conditions. One, that a registerable description deed of the severed lot right-of-way be submitted to the township along with a registered copy of the reference plan. Two, that a consent agreement be entered into with the township and registered on title pursuant to section 5126 of the Planning Act, wherein the owner agrees not to alter, grade, or place material, including gravel or asphalt, on the right-of-way. And three, that a conditional entrance permit is obtained from the district municipality of Muskoka for the existing access onto District Road 7 Peninsula Road, or that proof of an existing entrance permit be provided to the satisfaction of the district municipality of Muskoka. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much. And I guess the agent is in, so we'll bring the agent in now.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Sarah Turney. The address is 333 Bay Street, Suite 2400, M5H2T6. I just wanted to provide very quickly a couple of pieces of context with respect to this application. One is that this is really seeking to regularize this existing situation in that the benefiting lot now owned by the Gilberts is separated from the road by what is a fairly significant grade. As a consequence, there's no way to drive directly into the property. So the only vehicular access right now, what we're hoping to make legal vehicular access, is across the church property. And that's how vehicles have accessed this property for decades and decades and decades. But the prior owner to the Gilberts was someone who is her family was related to those who run the church. So there was no need to formalize it before. Now we need to formalize it. Now the existing driveway really cuts the church property almost entirely in half. And so what we have done is to move the proposed easement up towards the road. So it just brings it away from the water and means that more of the church land is left usable. So hopefully we're improving the condition in that respect. Now the kerfuffle that creates is that there is a pretty significant grade, and I'm happy to show a picture if it would assist, but I think there are photos in the original staff report. And so in order to make this drivable up closer to the road, eventually our client will need to grade this. Now, the reason that grading has become an issue, as I understand it, is because a heritage application has been put in respect of a cemetery that's sort of lower down on the property. The reason that we had requested to have this application deferred was so that we could consider that, because neither the church nor our clients knew that that heritage application was coming. I understand that the town does not currently have a heritage committee sitting, and so we really don't have any control over how long it's going to take to determine whether that heritage application has merit. As a consequence, what we are hoping to do is to receive consent at this time, enter into what I hope is a temporary consent agreement that says we will not grade or gravel while that heritage application is outstanding. And the goal being that if the heritage application is dismissed, or if the heritage application is found to otherwise be very limited, that at that time the consent agreement can be released so that we can proceed to grade and make this a drivable driveway. So hopefully that provides a bit of context, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you very much. Just 1 second. Is there anyone else here to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Okay. Now you may go ahead, Member Grogan Green.
I'm just wondering, how is the current driveway right now finished? Because it seems ridiculous to make it grass. Is it a full season cottage, or is it just seasonal? Because you can't shovel anything on if there isn't some surface underneath. Like it just, what is the current situation? I don't think we had good pictures because maybe it was snow covered.
Through you, Mr. Chair, may I respond?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, sorry.
So right now it's just sort of compacted dirt. It's because the existing driveway is really in the middle of the land, it's flatter, and that's what makes it easier to drive across. Now that it's getting pushed up towards the road to get it away from the water and kind of free up more of the property, that is going to make it trickier. And that's why our goal is to at least grade once we have permission to grade it. But for now, we're, as I said, satisfied to enter into the consent agreement, though we are hopeful that it can be released if the heritage application is found to be unsuccessful or otherwise limited.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Member Quinn.
This the notes or the attachment at this point has no pictures of the benefiting parcel. I'd like to see those, as there's been, on the applicant's adjoining property has had a lot of tree removal, and it's very manicured and garden-like, and I'm hoping that there's still the pine trees and what the shoreline is on this piece, and I would like to try and retain that if we can. So I'd like to see the pictures that weren't attached here if we could put those up.
So through you, Mr. Chair, if I'm permitted to share my screen, I can show a picture that I think was included in the original staff report, but I apologize if that was not the case. May I share my screen?
Yes, you may, if it's possible.
So it says host disabled participant screen sharing. through you, Mr. Chair, can I be enabled or?
Well, that's what I'm asking now. I'm just waiting to
Sorry.
do that. Do we normally allow that, Bryce? Do we normally allow screen sharing? I thought they had to send it in.
No, I'm not sure what, there is one photo in the old report. She may be referencing, it might be figure 4.
The old report is linked to the new.
The old report is linked in the current report.
Initial staff report. It says we're not connected, so that's not going to work. I'll just ask the agent. I'm looking at the resolution here, and it's basically saying that that the owner agrees not to alter, grade, or replace any material, including gravel or asphalt, on the right of way. So that's not going to work at this point for you, is it not?
It is not, Mr. Chair. What is in the final paragraph of the second staff report is just a comment that staff note that in these agreements, it is typical to provide a provision that states that it may be released upon the agreement of the town. And I'm hoping to actually, if the committee would be willing to include that in the condition, to state that the agreement may be released if the heritage application is either dismissed or if it is found in the discretion of the town that grading or graveling, would be permitted.
Okay, well, like from what I'm hearing from you, that they have to do something with it because of it changing the actual location and that, and to put that restriction on you, it may hinder it. I don't know. I'm just looking at Mr. Sharp, but I think maybe this could be cleared up with the church and heritage when it comes in, and maybe he's using it now, is he not? Your client are using it the existing right away now, so it's not hindering them, is it?
Currently, our client, yes, uses the driveway to get it sort of in the middle of the church property.
That's right. So would the church be willing to let them keep using it until we get this straightened around? Because obviously they're going to have to do some grading there. And as far as heritage goes, and that the information I have, it would be the church and maybe the cemetery, but not so much the grass and that. So I think it could probably be done.
So, Mr. Chair, through you, I see that Mr. Sharp has a comment. Would you like me to hold my response?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Chair Edwards, maybe just to step back and sort of look at how we got to where we are today. When the application was submitted, we understood that there was already an existing driveway in place. Ms. Mulholland visited the property after the public notice was circulated and realized that there was no existing driveway in the location where the proposed right-of-way is located. It gets more complicated in the sense that around that same time, there was an application submitted to designate the property under the Ontario Heritage Act, which has not yet been considered because Ms. Turney correctly pointed out, given the changeover of council, a new heritage committee has not yet been appointed. So that application hasn't been processed yet. And there's a cemetery on the property as well. And when staff realized there was no existing driveway, I think the fact that there's a cemetery on the property and the property may be of cultural or heritage interest, we felt it best to really take two options. One was to adjourn the application for certain studies to be undertaken, or alternatively, in our original report, we had put forward this alternative consideration that would apply a condition requiring a consent agreement wherein the owner would agree not to alter the grade or place any type of fill, i.e. gravel, on the driveway itself in order to allow the applicant to proceed with having their right-of-way granted. And then these other matters related to the heritage application that's been submitted and what the impact of grading and altering the grade on the property would be on the cemetery could be considered after the fact. And we're okay at a staff level to proceed in that manner. But I think Ms. Turney had suggested that some wording be included in the condition to allow the consent agreement to be released. We had considered her request at the staff level and had decided not to include that wording. Certainly the agreement can be released at some point in the future, subject to us being satisfied that the release is satisfactory and that all of the applicant's obligations have been met under the agreement, and that there'd be no concern with respect to the cemetery or the heritage designation of the property. So we're okay with that. But I would just caution committee, our preference would be to proceed with the condition that's been put in front of you today without any adjustment. Thank you.
And just to clarify,
sorry, just to clarify, I'm told that we have photos from our old staff report that we can screen share if that would be of value to Member Quinn's question with respect to vegetation on the benefiting lot. Thank you.
I want to scroll through to the next.
Okay.
Right there, I think. So if you maybe zoom in.
So through you, Chair Edwards, here we're screen sharing again. Okay, so unfortunately, seems like we're having a problem zooming in on the photo, but I think figure 4 at the bottom of the page there is really the only photo we have of the benefiting lot that may be of any value. Typically in these cases, when a right-of-way is proposed over a property in favor of another, we typically don't go and take a whole lot of photos of the benefiting property, noting only that it's just been developed for residential purposes. The focus is more with respect to the right-of-way itself and buildings and structures and the details with respect to the subject property itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. Okay, we've seen that. Now we could bring back to the screen. And you had your hand up, the agent, so we'll go with Ms. Turney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My only concern with respect to the condition is simply to ensure that the intent is clear, that we're really putting the condition in place so that the heritage application can proceed. If it turns out that the heritage application is not approved or does not have merit, and we really don't have any information in that regard right now, then it would be my submission that our clients should be permitted to make the driveway drivable in accordance with all of Muskoka's bylaws and rules and regulations. Really, the only reason we need this additional protection is because this heritage application went in between us putting in our consent application and today.
Okay, now can I ask you another question then? Have you talked to the church and to see what their application is? Because it's probably for just the church and the graveyard, if you're not driving across the graveyard, and that they may release that from their ask.
So, Mr. Chair, the church did not put in the application, and the church, to my knowledge, is not supportive of the application. The application went in by a third party who I understand has relatives buried in the cemetery. I understand it's in respect of the cemetery, which is a private cemetery, and the church is not supportive, to my knowledge, of this heritage application.
My experience with the Heritage Committee in the past is if the church is not supporting it, then there is a very good likelihood it would not be passed, for a simple fact that we had one last year where there was an old resort had been turned into a private residence, and somebody wanted to list it, and the owner did not want it listed. So, and that, but I don't know how we should actually proceed with this. I mean, he can drive across it now. Would you prefer it to be adjourned again, for a simple fact that that way we can get it straightened out once and for all, rather than you coming back? I don't know if there's a fee in that for it, and I'm trying to save you some money.
Mr. Chair, thank you. The reason we would like to go forward today is simply because we really have no control over the amount of time it will take to process the heritage application. We did defer this once in the hopes that some progress would be made, but at this point, it could be months and months.
That's right.
And so we would prefer, if the committee allows us, to proceed with the application. And even if a remark could be put in the minutes that it is certainly our request that the consent application that we agree to enter into as a condition can be released with agreement of the town once the heritage application has been resolved.
Okay, Mr. Sharp, can that be done? Because we just seem to go back and forth here, and I'd like to get this settled today, if at all possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. And I just wanted to note that Ms. Turney's been excellent to deal with through this whole process. It's rather a unique situation, and it's not something that we deal with at a staff level every day. So thank you, Ms. Turney, for that. And I'm not trying to be onerous or difficult. It's just that I would like to ensure that the condition is worded such that it maintains some flexibility for staff to determine what may be required in the future to release the consent agreement. Ms. Turney can note that there is a fee in the ability to release a consent agreement. And, we'd be happy to release it in the future. It's just that there's some processes in play, some uncertainty with respect to exactly how those processes are going to play out. And I would prefer just to maintain some flexibility. And we've done that through the condition that we've put in front of you today. Thank you.
Mr. Sharp, would that fee be?
Off the top of my head, Chair Edwards, I believe it's $300.
Okay, then I'll ask the applicant, is that what you would and that prefer then at this time?
Mr. Chair, just to be clear, that we proceed with that condition in place? Yeah, yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so the 300, that's just fine. I was trying to save you some money. But
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'll read the resolution. Moved by member Stokes, second by member Quinn, be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 6122 ML to incorporate Synod of the Diocese of Algoma, providing the following condition is fulfilled. 1, that a registrable deed, description deed of the separate lot right of way be submitted to the township, along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that a consent agreement be entered in with the township and registered on title pursuant to section 5126 of the Planning Act, wherein the owner agrees not to alter, place, or grade any material, including gravel or asphalt, on the right of way. And 3, that a conditional entrance permit be obtained from the District of Muskoka for the entrance, for the existing access to the District Road 7 Peninsula Road, or that proof of an existing entrance permit be provided to the satisfaction of the District Municipality of Muskoka. And that is it. So you've heard it. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And good luck with it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee.
And seeing that there's no new items, no new business, or anything else, going to read the next motion, and that's moved by member Quinn, second by member Bridgman. Resolve the committee adjustment adjourned at 12:28 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Oh.